An ugly student falls in love with a taxi driver, unaware that he's a millionaire in disguise. "Hey, miss!" the man shouted, extending a greasy hand toward Zainab. "Please help me with just 1,000 naira for gas. I swear I'll pay you back." She stopped abruptly, the sun beating down on her sweaty face as she walked through the Ojwalegba market on her way home. Her roommate, Tomiwa, had already turned the corner when she realized Zainab was no longer beside her. "Zainab again?" Tomiwa said, taking 2 steps back with a frown. "Oh no, who is it this time?" Zainab didn't answer immediately. She was staring at the man in front of her. He wore a striped shirt with missing buttons, pants stained with motor oil, and a worn-out cap. He was leaning next to an old taxi, a beat-up Peugeot 406, but what really caught her attention were his eyes. Tired, yes, but intense and dignified, like someone who had seen a lot and still hadn't lost his humanity. "He said he just needs 1,000 naira for fuel, Tomiwa," Zainab said, already reaching into her bag. 1,000 naira? Tomiwa exclaimed, scandalized. "Are you crazy, Zainab? You act like money grows on trees. We haven't even finished paying the rent, and you want to give money to a random taxi driver. What if he's lying?" "I don't know if he is, but if he's telling the truth and no one helps, he'll be stuck here. Maybe without dinner tonight. I can skip a data recharge today for that." "Undo," Tomiwa crossed her arms, sighing with impatience. "Girl, you've got to learn. The world doesn't reward kindness. The smart ones are the ones who win. But fine, do what you want. Don't say I didn't warn you." Zainab stepped up to the taxi driver and handed him the crumpled 1,000 naira note. He took it like it was a treasure, his eyes wide with surprise. "May Allah bless you, sister. I don't even know what to say." Just put in the fuel and get home safe," Zainab said with a small smile. "We all have hard days." "My name's Kelechi," he said, astonished by her kindness. "Thank you so much." "Zainab," she replied. Tomiwa huffed and turned her back. "Let's go," before she starts hugging the man. "Lord have mercy." As they made their way back to the small apartment they shared, Tomiwa didn't hold back her criticisms. "You're already broke. No new bag, no hair cream, and now you're out here supporting taxi drivers, and you call yourself a student." "He seemed desperate," Zainab said quietly. "I'm the one desperate," Tomiwa shot back. "Do you think there's going to be a job waiting for you once we graduate? This country isn't for the weak, Zainab, especially not someone like you, always hiding from the world, looking like you're scared of everything." Zainab didn't respond. She knew her roommate liked to brag, which always led to unfair comparisons. Tomiwa liked to pretend she lived a glamorous life, claimed her parents lived in London and sent dollars every month. But Zainab knew the truth. Tomiwa's parents lived in a village near Osogbo, farmers just like hers. The difference was Zainab accepted her reality. Tomiwa pretended. They reached the rundown building they called home. It was an old 2-story structure, visibly leaking, with a gate that was always jammed. They climbed the stairs in silence. As soon as they walked in, Tomiwa tossed her bag onto the mattress they shared. "All right," she said seriously. "Give me your part of the rent now." Zainab hesitated, slowly sitting on the edge of the mattress. I don't have all of it yet. Just part." Tomiwa's eyes widened. "Don't tell me you used the rent money on that taxi driver?" "I'll get the rest, I promise. My parents said next month they can send something. We had a problem with the farm." "This is unbelievable," Tomiwa shouted, throwing her hands up. "It's the same story every time. I cover for you, I help you, and you waste money on some random guy. He's probably out there right now laughing at the idiot who gave him cash. Tomiwa, he needed help. What if it were you in that situation? Don't be foolish. If it were me, I'd work, not beg in the street," she shot back. "And another thing, from now on, no more splitting bills. Next month you either pay your share or go live with your precious taxi driver." Zainab shrank under her words, but she didn't respond. She knew arguing would only make it worse. She just lowered her head and said, "All right." "All right, my foot," Tomiwa said, grabbing her towel and storming off to the bathroom. "I'm tired of being the only responsible one here. Just wait, Zainab. I mean it." The bathroom door slammed shut. Silence filled the tiny room. Zainab took a deep breath and sat again. Her hands trembled slightly. She thought about how her good deed had sparked so much chaos, yet she didn't feel regret. What she felt was peace, as if she had done the right thing. The next morning, Zainab woke up early. She made some rice and beans with what was left in the kitchen's plastic container. She packed it in a small bag and left before Tomiwa could wake up. She walked through the busy streets of Surulere, past street vendors, honking cars, and motorcycles weaving between traffic. She carefully searched for the taxi stand where she had seen Kelechi the day before. And there he was, sitting on the car's hood, watching the bustle. When he saw her, his eyes lit up. "Zainab!" he exclaimed, jumping down. "You came back!" She smiled, handing him the small bag. "I brought something for you to eat. It's simple, but..." Kelechi took it gently, almost reverently. His fingers trembled as he opened the package. "You have no idea what this means to me." He sat on a stone and ate slowly, chewing as if savoring every bite. Zainab simply watched him in silence. "I'm an orphan," he said suddenly. "Lost my parents when I was 12. Grew up in an orphanage in Enugu, then came to Lagos hoping to change my life. But the city, it's not easy." "That must have been hard," Zainab said. "It still is," he replied. "I've tried construction work, security jobs, even handing out flyers. Now I rent this old taxi by the day. Some days I drive, some days I can't. I'm sorry to ask, but how do you speak so well? I thought you hadn't studied." He smiled, wiping his mouth. "I used to listen to the passengers. I listen a lot. I pick up words, mimic their ways. I learned by listening to people like you." Zainab smiled. She had never met anyone like him. "Where do you live?" "In a room at the back of a mechanic shop near the Ojuelegba Bridge. It's open, but it works for me." Her eyes widened. "That's dangerous." "I'm a warrior, Zainab," he joked. "I fight hunger, cold, and thieves, and I win every day." She laughed, surprised by his humor. "You're different, Kelechi, and I wish I could do more to help." "You already are," he said, lightly touching her arm. "Every time you come here, you give me hope." Zainab felt her heart race. There was something about this man, something that went beyond clothes, status, or appearance, and for the first time, she found herself wanting to see him again. As she walked back toward the university, Zainab barely noticed the heat or the city's noise. Something inside her had shifted, quietly, like a seed planted in rich soil. And though she didn't yet understand what it was, she knew it was only just beginning. Tomiwa threw the spoon into the empty plate with irritation. The metallic sound echoed through the cramped kitchen, where the dim bulb hanging from the ceiling barely lit the tense faces of the two young women. "The food is disappearing way too fast in this house," she said, suddenly standing up and opening the cupboard door. "And I barely even eat here. How did everything vanish like that?" Zainab, sitting on the mattress with her books in her lap, kept her composure. "We used it, Tomiwa. That's why it's gone." "We?" Tomiwa shot back, spinning on her heels with her hands on her hips. "I leave early and come back late. Sometimes I just grab a snack on the street. And still, every time I get here, there's less food. Don't tell me you're..." She stopped mid-sentence, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Zainab, you're not taking our food to your little taxi driver buddy, are you?" Zainab slowly looked up, calm but firm. "His name is Kelechi, and he's not my buddy. He's my friend. And yes, I take him food when I can. "Oh, perfect," Tomiwa shouted, slamming the cupboard door. "So now we're a charity organization? Is this some kind of soup kitchen?" "He has no one, Tomiwa. He sleeps in a room behind a mechanic shop. He doesn't always have food. And before you ask, no, I'm not selling our food. I just share the little we have." Tomiwa scoffed, running a hand through her carefully braided hair. She paced back and forth like a pot about to boil over. "I can't believe this," she said with a bitter laugh. "A broke, plain-looking girl with almost nothing, trying to play Mother Teresa. You think you're going to save the world with rice and beans?" Zainab closed her books. "If I can ease someone's hunger, even just for one day, it's worth it." Tomiwa stopped pacing. Her expression shifted from mockery to contempt. "You know what you are, Zainab? A fool. A girl who never learned how the world works. You think you're going to escape poverty with prayers and good deeds? Meanwhile, girls like me are out there enjoying what life has to offer." Zainab stayed silent. She knew something more was coming. "Listen," Tomiwa continued, now with a cynical smile. "Since you're broke and clearly clueless, I've got a solution, an opportunity." She sat down beside Zainab on the mattress and lowered her voice. "Let's pay a visit to Al-Haji Musa. He's generous, likes girls like us. You know, young, obedient. One night and your rent, food, even your hair products are all covered." Zainab jumped up like she'd been slapped. "Are you insane?" she said, barely believing what she was hearing. "Never. You think just because I'm struggling I'd sell myself to some old man for money?" Tomiwa burst out laughing, mocking her. "Don't play the saint, Zainab. That Christian girl talk doesn't fill your stomach. While you sit there with your Bible, going hungry and feeding beggars, other girls are hopping into paid Ubers and walking out with cash-filled envelopes." "I'd rather go hungry than sell my body," Zainab said, her voice trembling but steady. "And don't judge me for trying to do what's right." Tomiwa stared at her for a moment, then flipped her braids arrogantly over her shoulder. "You're an idiot. When life slaps you in the face, don't say no one warned you. Stay here with your poor little taxi driver who sleeps on the floor. Me, darling, I'm headed where the money is." She grabbed her phone and started typing, a mysterious smile forming on her lips. Zainab felt her heart grow heavy. She had known for a while that Tomiwa had changed, but seeing how far she was willing to go cut deep. Silence settled over the room as they each sank into their own thoughts. The next morning, Zainab left early again. She packed a bit of food into a small bag and walked to the taxi stand. The sky still glowed orange when she saw Kelechi leaning against his car, deep in thought. "I brought this for you," she said, handing him the bag. Kelechi smiled, surprised once more. "Zainab, you're an angel. I don't know what I did to deserve such kindness." She sat beside him on the edge of the curb. They sat in silence for a few moments. "There's something I've been thinking about," she said suddenly. "You said you never went to school, right?" "That's right," he replied, chewing slowly. "But how do you speak so well? You express yourself better than a lot of college guys I know." Kelechi laughed. "I learned by listening. In taxis, on the streets, in the workshops. The ear is its own kind of school. I picked up the way people talk, copied their accents, repeated until I got it right. And I read a lot of old newspapers, ones passengers leave behind in the back seat." Zainab looked at him with admiration. It wasn't just Kelechi's intelligence that amazed her, it was the way he saw life. Always with a touch of humor, even when talking about pain. "Where do you live again?" she asked, already dreading the answer. "In an unfinished building behind the workshop, just one room with a crooked roof, but it's mine." She covered her mouth with her hands, horrified. "That's so dangerous, Kelechi. You need to get out of there." He just smiled. "I'm a warrior, remember? I fought through way worse than cracked walls, hunger, cold, thieves being looked down on. All of it made me strong." Zainab let out a laugh. "A warrior, huh? And how many battles have you won?" "A good few, and now I've won another, meeting someone like you." She was speechless for a moment. Her face felt warm, not from embarrassment, but from something new and strange. Happiness. Back on campus, Tomiwa was showing off to two classmates sitting under a leafy tree. She wore an expensive blouse and flashy sunglasses. "You guys don't get it," she said with a tone of superiority. "My parents wanted me to study in London. They sent an acceptance letter, tickets, everything, but I turned it down." "You turned down studying abroad?" one of the girls asked, stunned. "Of course," Tomiwa replied. "I wanted to live the real experience. I felt I needed to learn from the people. So here I am, among you." The girls sat in awe. "But don't think they abandoned me. They still send money every week. I don't want for anything. And since money's meant to be spent, this weekend's on me. Real restaurant, real food." "Seriously?" one of the girls asked. "Absolutely. I'll book a table for us. If we're going to live, let's do it in style." As they laughed, Zainab walked by at a distance, overhearing everything. But this time, she felt neither envy nor shame. Just a quiet relief in knowing her life was real, and that even if simple, it didn't rely on lies. Later at home, Zainab was trying to focus on her studies when she finally found the courage. "Tomiwa," she said, "I need to talk to you." Her roommate looked up, already suspicious. "What is it now?" "I'm worried about where Kelechi's living. He was attacked recently, did you know that?" Tomiwa rolled her eyes. "And what's that got to do with me?" "I want him to stay here for a few days, just until I can find him somewhere safer." Tomiwa burst out laughing. "You've completely lost it, bringing a homeless taxi driver here. Zainab, are you falling for this man?" "And what if I am?" she shot back. "What's the problem?" "The problem is, your parents sent you to Lagos to change your life, to escape poverty, and here you are swooning over a failure. You should be looking for someone with a future, with money, not some ragged man off the street." "I don't owe you anything, Tomiwa. If I'm in love, that's between me and my heart. Just let me know when he's sleeping here, because I'm not staying under the same roof as a beggar. Then you can leave, because he's coming, and he's staying." The two locked eyes, the silence between them like thunder before a storm. Nothing else was said. But they both knew that from that moment on, everything had changed. The metallic sound of a stretcher being pushed echoed through the hospital corridors as Zainab rushed in, heart pounding in her chest. Her feet barely touched the floor. Every step was a desperate drumbeat. The message on her phone had been clear. "Your friend has been brought to the hospital. He's injured." She nearly stumbled into the ward and saw Kelechi lying on a bed, white sheets stained with dried blood. He had a cut above his eyebrow, a split lip, and one arm in a bandage, but his eyes were still alive, and when he saw her, they lit up with a faint smile. "Zainab," he said, voice hoarse, barely above a whisper. "Kelechi." She ran to him, gripping his good hand tightly. "What happened? Who did this to you?" The doctor, a thin, grey-haired man, approached with a gentle smile. "He was lucky. Just some minor contusions and a shallow cut. Nothing permanent. But he needs rest. Young lady, the streets aren't safe, especially at night. He almost lost consciousness from the blows to his head." Zainab nodded, a mix of relief and fury swirling inside her. "He's going to need a place to rest, a real place." She looked at Kelechi with resolve. "You're coming home with me." Kelechi tried to protest. "No, Zainab, your roommate won't be okay with that. Your room's already tight. I don't want to be a burden." "Let Natasha," she paused, correcting herself. "Let Tomiwa worry about it. The decision is mine." "You almost died, Kelechi. I'm not leaving you on the street again." Seeing it was no use arguing, he gave a weak smile and nodded. "Thank you, Zainab." Hours later, as dusk fell, the two of them returned home. Zainab held Kelechi's arm gently, helping him up the stairs to the apartment. The door creaked open, and they stepped inside. Tomiwa, however, wasn't there. Zainab felt a quiet wave of relief. Carefully, she helped Kelechi lie down on her side of the mattress, fluffed a pillow and brought him some water. "Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll handle whatever I need to with Tomiwa." Kelechi closed his eyes, exhausted. For the first time in a long while, he had a safe roof over his head. For the first time, he felt like someone truly cared. The next morning, Zainab woke before anyone else, made a light breakfast, and studied while Kelechi slept. His presence brought her a strange sense of calm. Shortly after noon, her phone rang. It was Tomiwa. "Hey Zainab," she said, her voice overly cheerful. "Just calling to let you know I'm traveling. Abuja called, you know how it is. Big stuff. I'll be back in 5 days." "Abuja?" Zainab's eyes widened. "You left town?" "Of course. Don't you miss me?" she added with a sarcastic giggle. "Enjoy your time with your little rescue project. But take good care of the house, okay?" Before Zainab could respond, the call ended. Zainab let out a sigh of relief. At least for 5 days, she could care for Kelechi in peace, without snide comments or drama. She went back to the room and found him awake, propped up on a pillow. "It was Tomiwa," she said, handing him a cup of hot tea. "She traveled. She won't be back for 5 days." Kelechi nodded slowly. "That's good. I don't want more trouble. Don't worry. Here you can rest peacefully. Just take care of yourself. That's all I ask." The following afternoon, Zainab came home looking worn out. She dropped her books on the makeshift desk and sat on the floor. Kelechi noticed immediately. "Something happened?" "It's my tuition," she said, voice cracking. "The deadlines are coming up, and my parents couldn't send the money. The farm took a hit from the recent storms. They barely have enough to eat." "I'm so sorry, Zainab. You don't deserve this." She gave a weak smile. "It's not their fault. They've done everything they can. It just hurts not knowing what to do now." Kelechi adjusted himself on the mattress and raised his hand like he was holding an invisible microphone. "I, Pastor Kelechi, declare Zainab will have a helper soon, in God's name." She laughed for the first time that day. "You're a pastor now. A pastor, prophet, psychic, whatever you need, just not a thief, because you already give me everything for free." She laughed harder, wiping away tears that had started falling before she even realized. "Thank you. Really." The next morning, Zainab decided to go to the university's finance office in person. She was determined to ask for an extension. She walked the entire campus, praying silently along the way. When she arrived, she was met by a staff member who checked the records on an old computer. After typing for a few seconds, the woman looked at Zainab with a smile. "You don't need to worry. Your tuition has already been paid." Zainab blinked, confused. "What do you mean? I haven't paid it yet." "It was recorded yesterday, full payment, no pending balance. Someone must have paid on your behalf." Zainab stood frozen, unable to move. "But who?" "Unfortunately, the system doesn't show that. But you're all set to continue your studies." She left the office stunned. A mix of relief, gratitude, and confusion swirled inside her. Who could have done this? A miracle. She ran all the way home, her heart racing. As soon as she opened the door, she shouted, "Kelechi, my tuition was paid, paid! I don't owe anything." He was sitting against the wall, a book in his hands, and smiled calmly. "I told you, didn't I? God works in mysterious ways, and sometimes he uses taxi drivers." "You're hiding something from me," she said, pointing a finger at him. "Who was it?" "Me? I'm just a poor, beat-up driver. Don't play with me." "Zainab, if I knew, I'd tell you. But you also have to learn to accept gifts from fate." Zainab flopped onto the mattress, laughing and crying at the same time. "You're impossible, Kelechi. And you're amazing, Zainab." They laughed together, a soft, pure laughter, full of understanding. In that moment, without either of them saying it out loud, something solidified between them, something bigger than gratitude or friendship, something both of them knew in silence could no longer be ignored. The angry shout filled the tiny apartment the moment the door burst open. Zainab! Zainab, who was sitting on the mattress folding clean clothes, nearly dropped the shirt in her hands. Tomiwa, now back from her trip to Abuja, stood in the doorway, face contorted with rage. Behind her, the red suitcase wobbled in her grip. "What is this?" Tomiwa demanded, pointing directly at Kelechi, who sat in a corner of the room reading an old book with a torn cover. Zainab stood slowly. "Tomiwa, calm down. I can explain." "Explain what? That you turned our apartment into a shelter for vagrants?" she shouted. "I leave you alone for 5 days, and when I come back, this filthy man is living in my space?" Kelechi stood up, remaining calm. "Good afternoon, Tomiwa. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I'm only here under medical advice after being assaulted on the street." "Don't come at me with politeness now," she snapped. "I don't care about your health. I'm not sharing my home with a stranger. This place is already too small for me, for Zainab, and now you." Zainab stepped forward. "Tomiwa, he almost died. If it weren't for a stranger who got him to the hospital, he might be dead right now. I couldn't let him go back out on the street. I just want him to stay until he's fully recovered. This is about basic humanity." "Humanity?" Tomiwa scoffed. "Oh, please, just admit it, Zainab. You're in love with him, aren't you?" Zainab paused. A beat of silence passed. "And if I am?" she replied firmly. Tomiwa laughed, harsh and bitter. "Seriously, you, Zainab, the plain girl no one looks at twice, in love with a man who doesn't even have a place to die in? Have you completely lost it? You think he's going to take you anywhere? He's a broke taxi driver with no future, no plan, no nothing." Kelechi took a deep breath. Zainab, however, remained still, her face calm like the surface of a lake before a storm. "You don't understand, Tomiwa. Life isn't just about looks or status. You think beauty and money are everything, but character is what holds anything together. Kelechi has something you've never had: dignity." Tomiwa raised her eyebrows. "Dignity. He's a failure. And you, Zainab, you should be chasing someone who can lift you out of this life, someone who can elevate your status. Your parents didn't send you to Lagos to take in the homeless." Zainab shook her head. "My parents sent me to Lagos to study, to learn, to grow. And none of that requires me to trample others or sell myself. I won't trade my integrity for luxury, Tomiwa." "Fine then," Tomiwa shouted, storming to the door and pointing outward. "He has 1 week. 1 week. After that, either he leaves or I do, but I won't live under the same roof as that." Zainab didn't hesitate. "1 week is enough, and thank you really for giving in. I know that despite everything, there's still a shred of conscience in there somewhere." Tomiwa slammed the bathroom door. The silence that followed in the room was heavy, full of unspoken things. Zainab turned to Kelechi, who was looking at her with glassy eyes. "Thank you, Zainab." "For what?" "For standing up for me, even when everything is against you. No one's ever done that for me." She smiled, tired but resolute. "We're in this together, Kelechi, and it's going to be okay." 2 days later, the news hit like lightning on a clear day. Zainab received a call from her mother, her voice trembling with tears. "Zainab, your father, he's not well. We had to take him to the village hospital. He asked to see you. Can you come?" She didn't hesitate. Within 2 hours, she had a small backpack on her shoulders and her tickets bought. But before leaving, she sat down with Kelechi. "I have to go to Abeokuta. They said my father is sick. I can't ignore this." Kelechi nodded, visibly worried. "I understand, but just what about Tomiwa?" "I thought of that. It's going to be tough, but try to avoid her. Keep to yourself as much as possible." I'll be back in 3 days. If anything happens, call me. Promise?" "I promise." At the bus station, he helped her carry her bag to the bus. Before she climbed aboard, he held her hand. "Take care of yourself, Zainab. You too, Kelechi, and don't let her get to you. I'll be back soon." He nodded, and she boarded the bus. From the window, he waved until the vehicle disappeared, but he barely had time to return home. When he opened the apartment door, Tomiwa was already waiting, sitting at the edge of the bed with a strange smile on her lips. Well, taxi boy," she said, slowly crossing her legs. "Looks like it's just the two of us now." Kelechi frowned. "So?" She stood up, walking toward him slowly like a panther. "I've been thinking, Zainab is very simple, very basic. But you're handsome, raw but charming. You could have more with me." "What are you doing?" he asked, taking a step back. "I'm giving you a chance, Kelechi. A chance at something better. I'm different. I have class, connections. I can dress you, give you comfort, pleasure. Everything a real woman knows how to offer." The silence that followed was ice cold. Kelechi stared at her, stunned. Then he spoke firmly. "You're the same one who called me filthy, a beggar, who nearly kicked me out, and now you want to offer me comfort." Tomiwa didn't flinch. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his chest. "I just had to look at you properly. Now I see what Zainab saw, but I can give you much more than she ever could." Kelechi pulled her hand away sharply. "You have nothing I want. Your arrogance, your pride, your fake life. I've heard the stories about you, Tomiwa. I know who you hang out with. I know how you get things, and I want none of it." Her face darkened. "As if you had options, you broke loser. I was just trying to help you." "If your kind of help means selling your soul for luxury, then no thanks. Keep your mask for someone else." She screamed, enraged. "I should have known. That fool Zainab must have talked trash about me, didn't she? She poisoned you. She never said a word. I see with my own eyes, and I know exactly who's worth it." Tomiwa pointed to the door. "Get out of my sight, out of my house, now." Kelechi picked up his small bag, gave her one last look, and walked out without another word. On the road to Abeokuta, Zainab received a call. "Hello?" she answered, already tense. "Zainab, it's Kelechi. I need to tell you something." As he recounted everything, the advances, the words, the humiliation, Zainab felt a wave of anger rise inside her, but also a deep certainty. She had made the right decision from the beginning. "Kelechi," she said firmly, "hold on one more day. Tomorrow, everything changes." And she was right, because that very day, Kelechi met someone who would change his life forever, and their story was just beginning. The light rain slid down the body of the abandoned taxi, reflecting the yellow headlights passing along the pothole-ridden street. Kelechi, sitting in a dark corner of the bus terminal with his bag on his lap and a distant gaze, felt his heart tighten. It was as if all the effort, all the hope he'd been building over the past few days had been ripped away by Tomiwa's cruel words. He gripped the handle of his bag, trying to contain the mix of anger and sadness choking him. He had nowhere to go. Once again, the world seemed to turn its back on him. "Hello, young man," said a male voice, pulling him from his thoughts. Kelechi looked up. Standing before him was a man in a grey suit, seemingly middle-aged, with a calm face and sharp eyes. Behind him, a black car with tinted windows was parked. "Are you all right?" the man asked, leaning forward slightly. Kelechi hesitated, then shook his head. "No, nothing's all right." The man sat beside him despite the wet sidewalk. "Do you want to talk?" Maybe because he was just too tired, Kelechi told him everything. He spoke about the orphanage, the struggle on the streets, sleepless nights in an unfinished building, Zainab's kindness, Tomiwa's rejection, and being kicked out. The man listened in silence, only nodding from time to time. When he finished, the stranger took a deep breath. "Do you want to work?" Kelechi blinked, confused. "What? Work, housing, dignity. Do you want that?" He nodded without a second thought. The man smiled. "Great, my name is Emeka. Come with me." 3 days later, Zainab returned from Abeokuta, her mind racing. The visit to the village had been both a relief and a disappointment. Her parents were fine. The story of illness had just been a ploy to get her to come. They missed her and wanted time with their daughter, but her mind was elsewhere. It was with Kelechi and everything Tomiwa had done. When she reached the front of the building, she noticed something odd. The gate was wide open and the porch was empty. She rushed up the stairs and opened the apartment door. "Tomiwa," she called. No response. The room was empty. No sign of Kelechi. A wave of anxiety washed over her. She grabbed her phone and called immediately. "Hello?" Kelechi's calm voice answered. "Where are you? I just got back. The house is empty. You're not here. Come to house number 14 on Amadi Street in Ikeja. Enter through the black gate. I'm in the back of the house." "Ikeja, Kelechi, what is this about?" "Just come. You need to see it with your own eyes." The house on Amadi Street looked like something out of a commercial, tall, elegant, with a wrought iron gate and a pristine garden. Zainab felt out of place just standing there. She rang the doorbell and was greeted by a smiling security guard who led her through to the back. There he was. Kelechi, wearing a clean shirt, dress pants and leather slippers, leaning against one of the columns of the small guest quarters for staff. "Welcome," he said, smiling. Zainab froze. "What is this?" "After Tomiwa kicked me out, I was lost. Then I met a man named Emeka. He listened to me, brought me to this house, and offered me a job as a security guard. They liked me, gave me this room out back. I have a place to sleep. I have peace." "Kelechi, this is unbelievable." "There's more," he said, clearly excited. "I told them about you, about how you helped me when no one else would, and they said you could stay here too. They trust me. They want to meet you." Zainab stood still for a moment, her heart racing. You told them about me." "Of course. How could I not?" Suddenly, the back door of the main house opened. A well-dressed couple appeared. The same man from the bus terminal, now wearing a traditional grey tunic, and a graceful woman with an embroidered headscarf. "You must be Zainab," the woman said, smiling kindly. "Kelechi told us so much about you. It's a pleasure to meet you." Zainab, still in shock, just nodded. They invited her in. The inside of the house was even more impressive. Everything gleamed: luxurious rugs, polished furniture, paintings by renowned artists. And yet the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. "Your heart is rare, my dear," said Mrs. Stella. "We want to thank you for what you did for Kelechi, feeding him, protecting him. That says everything about the kind of person you are." "We have a son," Mr. Emeka added, "who lives abroad, a hard-working but lonely young man. We're looking for someone with a good heart, someone genuine. For him, someone like you." Zainab's eyes widened. "With all due respect, sir, ma'am, but I already have someone." They exchanged surprised glances. Zainab returned to the back of the house, still processing the conversation. She found Kelechi sitting on the porch. She leaned against the column beside him, quiet for a while. "Did you tell them we're just friends?" she asked suddenly. "Yes," he replied, a little awkwardly. "I thought it would make it easier for them to accept you here." "Well, now they want me to marry their son." Kelechi choked. "What?" "They said they've heard good things about me, that I'm the kind of woman they want as a daughter-in-law, but I turned them down." "Why?" She turned slowly, looking him straight in the eyes. "Because my heart already belongs to someone." Kelechi went silent, as if the world around him had stopped. Then, without breaking eye contact, he took her hand. Zainab, I need to tell you something. I love you. Since the first day, when you gave me money without even knowing who I was. I'm a broken man, but with you I feel whole. Zainab smiled, tears forming in her eyes. And I love you, Kelechi. I love the man you are. Not the taxi driver, not the poor man, but the warrior, the human being, the friend who never gave up, even when the whole world turned against him. He knelt right there on the porch. He pulled a simple silver ring with a small glass stone from his pocket. Will you marry me, Zainab? She laughed and cried at the same time. Of course I will, you crazy man. And in that moment, between the mansion's grandeur and the simplicity of the staff quarters, a new chapter began. Not just for the two of them, but for everything they had fought through up to that point. The struggle had been worth it. Love had finally triumphed over appearances. The soft clinking of silverware being arranged in the kitchen echoed gently through the house as Zainab sat on the back porch of the mansion, watching the sky darken into shades of lilac and grey. The late afternoon heat had given way to a cool, calming breeze, but her mind was still reeling from the whirlwind of revelations over the past few days. She had said yes to a surprise marriage proposal from a man who, not long ago, was just a stranger in dirty clothes with a tired smile. A man who was now part of her world, not because of wealth, but because of integrity. Kelechi, sitting beside her, sipped water quietly, as if the moment were the most natural thing in the world. But he knew he couldn't keep certain truths hidden for much longer. Zainab, he began, eyes on the horizon. Remember when I told you life taught me to observe people? I remember. You said you learned by listening, by watching, because you didn't go to school. It was true. But it wasn't the whole truth. She furrowed her brow, slowly turning toward him. What do you mean? Kelechi took a deep breath, like a man preparing to leap off a cliff. I'm not a taxi driver. I never was. And I've never really been poor. Not the way you thought I was. Zainab froze. Her heart seemed to stop for a moment. What are you talking about? I'm the son of Mr. Emeka and Mrs. Stella. This house, this family, it's mine. The silence between them thickened like a wall. Zainab blinked several times, trying to understand if it was a joke, a test, or if she had truly heard what she thought she had. This is serious? Kelechi nodded. I grew up in this house, studied abroad, worked in my father's companies. But after some painful experiences with gold diggers and fake friendships, I decided to run a test. I disguised myself as a taxi driver on my own. I wanted to see if there was still someone out there who would see me for who I am, not as a walking bank account. Zainab stood up slowly, taking a step back. Her face was in shock. So you lied to me the whole time? Pretended to be something you're not? You made me cry, fight, clash with my roommate, all based on a lie? It wasn't a lie, Zainab, he said, standing up as well. I never lied about how I felt. I only hid who I was, because I had to find someone like you. And I did. I love you, and every gesture, every word, every smile of yours was real. You saw me when no one else did. You chose me without knowing I had money, and that's worth more than anything. Zainab turned away, trying to hold back her tears. And when they asked me to marry their son, was that part of the plan too? My parents didn't know. I never told them I was the son. I told them the story as if it were about a friend. They saw your qualities and came up with the idea themselves. Only after you declined did I decide to tell you the truth. She ran a hand across her face, overwhelmed. This is too much. I need to think, Kelechi. I need to figure out how to feel about all of this, because now, even if I stay with you, it'll feel like I said yes because of your position. He stepped closer gently. It doesn't matter what it looks like to the world, Zainab. What matters is what you know in here, he said, lightly touching her chest. You know who I was when I was beside you. You know what we went through. And you know what we have didn't come from money. It came from struggle, compassion, and friendship. She looked at him, tears welling in her eyes. I need to trust myself again to move forward. And I'll give you all the time you need. Days later, the harsh Lagos sun hid behind clouds as a taxi pulled up in front of a modest beauty salon in the Yaba neighborhood. The door opened slowly, and to the surprise of the women inside, Tomiwa stepped out. She was unrecognizable. The expensive clothes were gone. Her once glowing skin was now dull, her face thinner and worn. Dark circles framed her tired eyes, and her once proud posture was now bent, almost timid. The salon staff glanced at each other in disbelief. Is that Tomiwa, the girl who used to ride with politicians? What happened to her? She walked in silently and approached the counter. Do you offer free haircuts today? The girl behind the counter was speechless. Tomiwa, who once looked down on everyone there, now asking for a free service. Tomiwa, are you okay? She just shook her head. No, I'm not. I found out I'm HIV positive, and I have no one. The news spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The girl who once claimed her parents lived in London, who mingled with businessmen, now asking for help in a humble local salon. Alone, no friends, no contacts. Everything she'd built on lies and appearances had crumbled. During a new health crisis at the hospital, she called out for one name. Get Zainab, please. Her mother, distraught at her bedside, took the phone with trembling hands and dialed the number. Zainab answered quickly. Tomiwa's mother? Yes, dear. Please come to the hospital. She asked to see you. She's very weak. When Zainab arrived, she saw the shadow of the girl Tomiwa used to be, pale, thin, with hollow eyes. The tubes and wires attached to her frail body looked too heavy for her to bear. Zainab, she whispered, barely audible. I'm here, Zainab said, holding her cold hand. Talk to me. I was foolish, jealous, cruel to you. I just wanted to win. I just wanted not to be poor. Zainab's tears began to fall. I tried to warn you, Tomiwa. You always had a choice. I know, and now I'm paying for it, but you made it. Even with nothing, you made it. Don't say that, Zainab replied. We don't win through wealth. We win when we understand the value of life. I'll pray for you, and I forgive you, truly. They sat there, hand in hand, and even though time couldn't erase past choices, forgiveness bloomed, even in the midst of pain. Zainab left the hospital with tears on her face, but peace in her heart. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had done what was right. And waiting at the front gate, standing just like always, was Kelechi, silent, steady. His eyes fixed on her, Zainab walked toward him slowly. Without a word, she wrapped her arms around him. And in that embrace, all the hurt, doubts, secrets, and pain were washed away. She looked up at him. I'm ready now. Kelechi smiled. Then let's truly begin. And hand in hand, they walked home. This time not as survivors, but as two souls who, through twisted paths, had found each other exactly where they were meant to be. The main hall of the Emeka family mansion was silent as Zainab entered, still wrapped in the whirlwind of emotions left behind by her visit to the hospital. She had forgiven Tomiwa. She had let go of the past, of the insults, the humiliation, the envy. But now, something more urgent stood before her, a new future, a fresh beginning alongside the man she had chosen and who had also chosen to love her unconditionally. In the center of the room, as if he'd been waiting all day, Kelechi watched her with tenderness. Dressed in simple yet elegant clothes, he looked more confident than ever. When Zainab stopped in front of him, he took a step forward and held her hands firmly. I know it's been a long, hard journey, Zainab. Lies, secrets, revelations. And yet, You're still here, with me. I'll never be able to thank you enough for that." She smiled softly. "You don't have to thank me. What we built didn't happen by chance. It came from care, from pain, from choosing each other." Kelechi nodded. "Then it's time to stop surviving and start living." The wedding preparations were swift but meaningful. The Emeka family insisted on organizing everything. The hall was decorated in shades of gold and cream, traditional fabrics adorned the tables, and local musicians rehearsed songs that celebrated love and resilience. Despite Zainab's humble roots, the ceremony would be grand, not because she asked for it, but because her story deserved to be honored. While trying on her dress with the seamstress the week before the wedding, Zainab stared at her reflection with disbelief. She had never seen herself like that before, beautiful, confident, with a different kind of light in her eyes. "Never thought I'd wear something like this," she murmured. "You're going to be stunning, dear," the seamstress said, as she adjusted the final stitches at the waist. "And with that groom of yours, it's like something out of a movie." Zainab laughed, and for a moment she felt like life was finally smiling back. The wedding day arrived with clear skies and the sun shining brightly over Lagos. The Emeka mansion had been transformed. Friends, relatives, neighbors, staff, and even former classmates from university filled the space. Everyone wanted to witness the wedding of the woman whose kindness had captured so many hearts. Tomiwa, due to her health, couldn't attend, but she sent a handwritten letter. The writing was shaky. "Zainab, even from afar, I need to say, you won. You overcame cruelty, doubt, and most of all me. You gave me something I never had the courage to give anyone, your forgiveness. May this love take you further than you ever dreamed." Tomiwa Zainab cried when she read it, then carefully tucked the letter into the pocket of her dress before walking down the aisle. Kelechi was waiting with teary eyes. When she appeared, every eye turned toward her, not with surprise, not with judgment, but with reverence. Because everyone knew they weren't witnessing just a wedding. They were witnessing a triumph, the triumph of true love. The pastor guided them through the vows with heartfelt words. When Kelechi took the microphone, his voice trembled. "Many of you knew me as Kelechi, the taxi driver. Others knew me as Emeka Jr., the son of this house. But the name I'm proudest to carry now is the one I earned through this woman's love, a man worthy of her heart." Zainab smiled, tears streaming down her face. "And I," she said when it was her turn, "was called ugly, naive, foolish. But I never stopped believing that true beauty is in how we treat others. Today, God shows me it was worth not giving up." The ceremony ended in applause and celebration. Drums echoed late into the night, and smiles filled every corner of the party. What no one knew was that at that very moment, a local film crew had been capturing the wedding. Within days, the video went viral on Nigerian social media. The poor student who married a millionaire without knowing who he was. Messages poured in from everywhere. "You're living proof that love still exists. I cried watching your story. Thank you for inspiring me. Zainab, you're the kind of woman every mother wants as a daughter-in-law." Despite the sudden fame, the couple remained humble. Kelechi turned down sensational interviews, and Zainab continued taking extension classes at a nearby university. Together, they began working on social projects focused on youth in underprivileged communities. "We come from the bottom," Kelechi would say at every meeting with investors, "and we know there are still people out there fighting like we did." Months later, the small office of the NGO they founded bore a sign: Z&K Project, Love, Education, and Hope. There they were, hand in hand, distributing notebooks, mentoring teenagers, reminding everyone who heard their story that true love isn't impressed by wealth. It reveals itself in small gestures, silent respect, and the daily choice to care for one another. Zainab, now wearing a glimmering ring on her finger, always said the same thing. If I had chosen with my eyes, I would have missed the greatest treasure of my life. And Kelechi, grinning beside her, would add, and if I had judged by what the world values, I would have lost the woman who changed my destiny. The past was behind them, and ahead only open road. This time there were no disguises, only love, true, strong, and absolutely eternal. The cold hospital lights sliced through the darkness of the night as machines beeped steadily, the only sounds in the otherwise silent room. Tomiwa's body, once full of vanity and life, now lay frail and curled on the hospital bed. Her eyes were sunken, her skin pale, and her hair, once proudly straightened and intricately braided, fell in lifeless strands. In the chair beside her, her mother gripped her hand tightly, trying to hold back tears. The HIV diagnosis had been a devastating blow, but what hurt Tomiwa the most was the emptiness, the regret, the absence of everything she once thought she had achieved: fame, luxury, power. Now it all revealed itself to be fragile, like a house made of sand before the tide. She drew a breath with effort, her voice broken and weak. "Mom, call. Zainab, please." Her mother hesitated, but couldn't ignore her daughter's last request. With trembling hands, she dialed the number Tomiwa had whispered repeatedly over the past few days. Zainab was in the back room of the mansion, organizing books for the social project she and Kelechi had started together. The phone rang, breaking the silence. She answered. "Hello." "Zainab, this is Tomiwa's mother. Please, come to the hospital. She's very weak. All she does is ask for you." Zainab was silent for a moment. Her heart raced. It felt as if the past was knocking at her door once again. "I'm on my way." Without saying another word, she dropped the books, slipped on her shoes, and ran out, her heart heavy with anguish and compassion. When she arrived at the hospital, she rushed through the cold corridors to the room that had been described. Entering, the sight hit her like a punch. The woman before her was unrecognizable, but the eyes, the eyes were still the same. Weak, tired, full of pain, and now, humility. "Zainab," Tomiwa murmured, her voice trembling with weakness. Zainab stepped closer, sitting beside her and gently holding her hand. "I'm here. Forgive me for everything, for humiliating you, insulting you, for all of it." Zainab's eyes welled with tears, but there was no anger left in her heart, only sadness. "I forgive you, Tomiwa, from the bottom of my heart. You were always part of my story, even in the hardest moments. I never stopped hoping you'd find peace." Tomiwa cried. The tears streamed down her thin cheeks. Her body trembled. "Pray for me, Zainab," she whispered. "Ask God to forgive me too." Zainab stood, took her friend's hands, and closed her eyes. "Lord, this daughter is yours. You know her heart, her flaws, her struggles, her fears. Forgive her, Lord. Grant her rest, mercy, peace." Tomiwa sobbed like a child. Her mother cried too, standing behind her daughter, wrapped in silent prayer. 3 weeks later, Tomiwa passed away. Her funeral was simple, quiet. There were no crowds, no cameras, no luxury cars, but Zainab was there, dressed in white, a scarf covering her hair, her hands clasped over her chest. She carried no resentment, only a testimony. That same day, upon returning home, she was surprised by an unusual silence. "Kelechi," she called, walking into the back of the mansion. No response. She picked up her phone and called. "Hello? Where are you?" His voice came through, upbeat. "I'm in the main house. Come over. There's something I need to show you." When Zainab entered, her eyes froze. Kelechi was standing in the center of the room, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, elegant like a groom about to walk down the aisle. The furniture had been rearranged, and beside the large window, a table was set with glasses, candles, and flowers. The background music was soft, almost ethereal. What is this?" Zainab asked, stunned. Kelechi smiled and walked toward her calmly. "I know I've already proposed, and you've already said yes, but now I want to tell you something else." She swallowed hard. "More? I lied. About being a taxi driver, about my background. But now there are no more secrets. The full truth needs to be told." He took a breath. "I'm the heir to a business group that operates in 3 countries. I studied abroad, worked with top executives, and was groomed to lead my family's legacy. But I lost myself. I got tired of being seen as the boss's son. So I hid. I pretended to be someone ordinary. I just wanted to find someone who saw me beyond my name and money." Zainab listened silently, her heart racing. "And then I found you." Kelechi knelt once more, this time holding a different box. Inside was a real diamond ring, delicate with a pure and brilliant sparkle. Zainab, now with no lies, no disguises, no masks. "Do you still want to be my wife?" She looked into his eyes, her heart light. She smiled. "It doesn't matter who you are, Kelechi. I fell in love with you when you had nothing, and I still love you now. Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and in that moment the door opened to reveal Mr. Emeka and Mrs. Stella, smiling with pride and emotion. "Welcome, my daughter," said Mrs. Stella, hugging her. "You're officially part of the family now." "You always were," added Mr. Emeka. Months later, the wedding was held with all the elegance and beauty the occasion deserved. The newspapers ran the headline, "Son of Nigerian magnate marries humble student who loved him without knowing his identity." But for Zainab and Kelechi, this wasn't a headline. It was real life. It was true love. On their first night after the wedding, during their honeymoon, Zainab looked out over the sea and held Kelechi's hand. "You know, sometimes I wonder how all this happened." "It was God," he said, gazing at the stars. "And it was you, your pure heart, your honesty, your love." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Let the rest of our life begin." And there, under a starry sky, the taxi driver who was secretly a millionaire and the student once called plain sealed a love that could never be bought, faked, or forgotten. Because what they had was real. It was forever.